Once upon a time, in a small crowded town, there lived a young girl named Emma. She was only 9 years old, but her eyes already carried the weight of life. Emma lived with her father in a tiny broken apartment near the city market. The walls were cracked, the roof leaked during rain, and sometimes they slept hungry. Her mother had passed away when Emma was very young, leaving her father alone to raise her. Her father, David, worked as a cleaner in a large hospital. Every morning before sunrise, he wore his old faded uniform, carried a mop and bucket, and walked several miles to work. His hands were rough, his shoes were torn, but he never complained. Because for him, Emma was his whole world. At night, after finishing his exhausting shift, David would sit beside Emma while she studied under a weak yellow light. "Study hard, my princess," he would always say softly. "One day, your life will be different from mine." Emma never forgot those words. But life was not easy. At school, many children laughed at her old clothes and worn-out shoes. "Your father cleans floors," some kids mocked. "You will probably become a cleaner too." Emma stayed quiet. Sometimes she cried alone at night so her father wouldn't see her tears. But deep inside her heart, a dream was growing. She wanted to become a doctor. Not because she loved money or fame, but because she had watched her father clean hospital floors for years while doctors walked proudly through the halls. She wanted to make him proud one day. One winter evening, David came home coughing badly. His face looked pale, but he still forced a smile. "I'm okay," he said. But he wasn't. The next morning, he still went to work because they needed money for rent and food. Emma watched silently from the window as her tired father disappeared into the cold fog. That day changed everything. Late at night, there was a knock on the door. A hospital worker stood outside. "Your father collapsed while working," he said gently. Emma's heart stopped. She rushed to the hospital with tears streaming down her face. For the first time in her life, she saw her father lying weakly on a hospital bed. The doctor said his lungs were badly infected because he had worked for years with chemicals and dust. Emma held his hand tightly. "I promise," she whispered through tears. "One day I will become a doctor, and I will take care of people like you." From that moment, Emma studied harder than ever before. While other children played outside, she stayed inside reading books. She borrowed old textbooks from libraries because she couldn't afford new ones. Sometimes there was no electricity in the apartment, so she studied under streetlights late at night. People passing by often saw a small girl sitting alone in the cold with books in her lap. Years passed. Life kept testing her. There were days when they had no food except bread and tea. Days when rent was overdue. Days when Emma wanted to give up. But every time she looked at her father's tired face, she found strength again. David also worked harder despite his illness. He secretly saved small amounts of money every month for Emma's education. One day, Emma received the biggest news of her life. She had earned a scholarship to medical school. When she told her father, he broke down in tears. For years, he had cleaned hospital floors. And now his daughter would walk those same halls as a doctor. Medical school was difficult. Emma faced sleepless nights, endless exams, and constant pressure. Many students came from rich families with expensive books and private tutors. Emma had none of that. She worked part-time at cafes during the day and studied at night. Sometimes she slept only 2 or 3 hours. But she refused to quit. Because she remembered every sacrifice her father had made. Finally, after years of struggle, pain, and hard work, graduation day arrived. Emma stood proudly in her doctor's coat while the crowd clapped loudly. But her eyes searched for only one person. Her father. David sat quietly in the back row wearing his old cleaner uniform because he had come directly from work. Tears rolled down his face as he watched his daughter receive her degree. At that moment, he didn't feel poor anymore. He felt like the richest father in the world. After the ceremony, Emma walked straight toward him. Without saying a word, she hugged him tightly. "This success belongs to you," she cried. Years later, Emma became one of the most respected doctors in the city. Ironically, she started working at the same hospital where her father had once cleaned floors. But this time, everything was different. Doctors respected her. Patients admired her. And whenever hospital workers cleaned the hallways, Emma always smiled kindly and thanked them. Because she never forgot where she came from. One evening, Emma placed a framed photo inside her office. It was an old picture of her father holding a mop while smiling proudly beside little Emma. Under the photo, she wrote, "Behind every successful child is a parent who never gave up." And every time people asked her how she became successful despite being poor, Emma would simply smile and say, "My father cleaned the hospital, so I could one day save lives inside it."